Okay. Welcome everybody. Today, we are discussing 7702 and specifically what the impact is on smart wallets, so smart contract-based wallets. If you're not familiar with the concept, have been around for a while. Different iterations. We've had a new EIP called 4337 that's been launched, and a lot of the old school way of working of smart wallets have been upgraded to this new standard. Now we are dealing with 7702. We have collected a lot of great speakers today. It might get a bit too technical, even for me. So, but the hope is that we discuss this EIP and what the impact will be. I'm going to give everybody some room to introduce themselves. So let's start with Ivo, just because I'm seeing you first next on my screen.
GM again. So I'm Ivo. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ambire Wallet, which is very appropriate for this precise space because Ambire is a hybrid account abstraction wallet, which means first of all it allows EOAs and smart contracts in one place, and second of all for smart accounts, it bridges the gap between EOAs and smart accounts, so it has the best of EOAs in smart accounts, like same address on every chain, custom networks, and etc. So it's completely 7702 ready and also really appropriate for 7702, really fitting in its philosophy.
Nice, thanks. Yeah, I'm by a big fan of the wallet you guys produced as well. Rafi, I'm going to give you an opportunity as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So, hello everyone. I'm Rafi. I'm the co-founder of Clave. Clave is a smart contract wallet that is operating on zk-sync, and it's built on top of native account abstraction, and mostly focusing on the DeFi and like mostly suitable for the normies. Yeah, I don't think like I'm super suitable. At least like as suitable as Evo, since we don't have any support for EOAs. But mostly an advocate for the native account abstraction. Thank you.
Nice. It's always good to have an alternative here. Kieran, my good colleague Kieran, introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. Hey guys. So my name's Kieran. I'm the CTO of Pillar. I've been around at Pillar now for quite some time. I started as a backend developer, and I've worked my way up over the years. And I've just seen what's come and gone with the space and the industry, and the Pillar wallet, especially having to design and develop and build. Around all the changes that have come with the standard space. So I am like super excited to talk about this because it solves a lot of problems. So that's who I am, and I'm really glad to be here today.
Cool. Thanks. David, a word from you.
Sure. Hi everyone. This is David from Trust Wallet. I do engineering at Trust Wallet and mainly focus on the smart wallet side. And a brief intro about Trust Wallet is one of the most popular Web3 wallets that users use. We originally served EOA, and then early this year, we launched our account abstraction wallet. We recently passed 1 million users. So yeah, we are also trying to expand further on the AA aspects and the smart wallet aspects. So yeah, happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me today.
Amazing. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Aldin. I'm your host today. I'll just be emceeing through a while. So let's start with the basics, right? What is 7702 about? Like, what is the major impact here? Why is it such a big deal? I'm just going to open up the floor and like ask Ivo because he seems very excited about 7702. In layman terms, what is it about? What is it going to accomplish?
So yeah, you're absolutely correct. I'm super excited. And rather than opening with a technical explanation of what it is, I would start with the problem. We launched Ambire over 3 years ago, and some of the first feedback that we got is why can't I import to the same address that I already have in MetaMask? And we've been tirelessly explaining this for over 3 years that you cannot import the same address as your MetaMask, and it turns out it's a big problem for people having to jump onto a new address. So yeah, when you start with an account abstraction wallet, you're given a new address. You cannot use your EOA. You cannot use the account where you have all of your assets, where you have possibly history, which is airdrop friendly, etc., etc. So yeah, one of the big benefits of 7702 is that it sort of backports the smart account features onto EOA. It doesn't make an EOA a full smart account because there's still some things that you cannot do, like a real multisig. You cannot do that with EIP-7702, but you don't have to. It's not for that. That's not its benefit. Its benefit is to backport smart account features to an existing EOA that you're already familiar with, and you're going to use roughly with the same security model. And then a big benefit of 7702 that we don't talk about that much is that the account is still an EOA. So if a Dapp is not compatible with real smart accounts, for example, it doesn't support smart account signatures, then you can still use that account in EOA mode. So with a good wallet implementation, you will never know that this account actually has code. And you will be able to use it absolutely everywhere where you can use an EOA. But still benefit from features like paying gas in stable coins, prepaying for gas, cross-chain gas payments, batching, so you can get rid of your security approvals, and more. So yeah, basically you get the best, you sort of get the best from both worlds, but what you really get is this seamlessness of being able to use your existing accounts that you're already used to and you already have history on.
Right. So what does the experience look like in that scenario that you're talking about? Like I'm a EOA typical user, let's say a MetaMask user, and I go to a Dapp that wants to enable smart accounts. What does the experience look like for like enabling this functionality? And what does it also look like if I want to disable it again and
Yeah,
interact with some legacy apps?
Yeah, well, that's also something that most people misunderstand. It's not going to be Dapp driven. The Dapp can request that you have smart account functionality, but the Dapps are not gonna be suggesting the code that you're gonna delegate to. So the code that you're gonna delegate to is gonna be suggested by your wallet implementation, be it MetaMask, Rabi, Pure, Ambire, whatever you use as a wallet. That's gonna dictate what you delegate to in terms of code. And the experience is going to look like this. You import an existing EOA and the wallet implementation says, do you want to enable smart account functionality? You say yes, you sign a message, and that's it. In some cases, you're going to have to sign a separate message on each network that you use the account. For example, one message on Ethereum, one message on Base. But in some cases, you're going to be able to deal with just one message. And after this, to fall back into EOA mode, you don't need to do anything. The implementation can do this transparently for you. What I mean by that in technical terms is that, for example, if there is a Dapp that doesn't support smart account signatures, most likely your wallet implementation just has to produce an EOA signature, and that's going to be sufficient. Yeah, that's basically it. In very, very rare cases, you're gonna have to undelegate the code. So the wallet implementation can again do this for you by prompting you to sign one more thing before you sign your normal transaction, but it's gonna be kind of invisible, right? People are already used to signing like 2 transactions in order to do approvals. I'm not saying that if 702 will make you sign 2 things. On the contrary, in most cases, it will make you sign less things. But in the worst case where you have to deal with a very stubborn Dapp, you may have to sign 2 things.
Right. So the user experience is the first time that you want to initiate, like you kind of need to convert your EOA to enable as a smart account. And the second one, I assume, is something called delegation, where you're delegating over the keys, but also that's not necessary, right? Because you mentioned at the beginning that if you wanted to use some multi-sig, that's not possible. But I thought that recovery and multi-sig was possible, or did I get that wrong?
Yeah, so it's a bit more complicated. So first of all, actually, no, it's a bit less complicated. So first of all, in order to take advantage of 7702, there's no delegation or anything like this. What I mean by enabling smart account functionality, this is the delegation. The delegation is the enabling of the smart account functionality. So that's the first step that you need to do and the only step. What I mean by multiple signatures on different networks is that sometimes this delegation needs to be done on each network separately because of the different nonces. So yeah, basically there's just one step you need to do, which is whether you call it enabling smart accounts or whether you call it delegation, it's all the same. Regarding multisigs and enabling recovery, this is possible, but it's not possible to use the account as a real multisig. So what I mean by that is that the original key of the account is always going to be active. Even if there is an EIP following 7702, which allows to revoke the original key, for dApps that are not familiar with the smart account concept, they're always going to respect the original key. So when you use the 7702 account, there is no way to ever revoke that original key. So this is why I say that you cannot do multisigs. So you can do like a multisig, but the root key is always gonna have power over that multisig. So it's not gonna be a real multisig, right? But you can
Yeah.
do it for stuff like, for example, if you want, if the original account is on a hardware wallet and you want to not bother having to use that hardware wallet all the time, you can set up a 2 out of 2 multisig with your phone and your laptop. And by doing this, you get similar security without needing to pull out your hardware wallet every time. So that's a good use case of a multisig, but it's not a multisig as in, like, for example, safe, right? It's not like
Mm.
something that you would use for your company because you would always be able to override it.
Yeah, there's no key rotation, right? That's the
Exactly,
difference.
exactly. No key
Yeah.
rotation and always one root key, no matter what you do. You can stack a safe on top of it. That's gonna work, but it's gonna be either the safe or the root key. Not not you're not gonna exclude this root key from the equation.
All right, cool. So thanks, Ivo. I'm just going to give some room for other speakers like David. Being one of the biggest wallet providers in the space and playing with the smart contract wallets, like what is the main thing that you are expecting to see from 7702, the way you're implementing it, at least for your users?
Yeah, I think like one of the main things that 7702 and potentially AA, but like AA is not at least like mainstream yet. But I think the transition first is that the transition from an AA to smart wallet will be very streamlined through 7702. And then regarding your question, like regarding the functionality or sort of things that we are researching further is like how much automation can we actually do as a Web3 wallet. So if we currently envision the current functionalities or feature sets of an EOA, it's mainly to like interact with the apps, like receive funds, send funds. So the functionality or the business boundary that the Web3 wallet currently covers is pretty simple because for an EOA, a lot of times the action should actually be authorized. Like each time a user wants to do something, they have to come to the wallet and sign it. However, through 7702 and smart wallets, I actually think the boundary of wallet can be much bigger. So for example, there could be a lot of automation in terms of investments, in terms of payments and things like that. So I think it's currently more in the face of like the technical sides, the standards and those things getting ready. And when it actually gets live, it's more on like how wallets like uh, envision their strength and make more automation and broaden their wallet boundary. So Web3 wallets currently is more for tools to like interact with the apps, send funds, receive funds, which is probably quite basic. But like going forward with the smart wallet functionality being embedded within the wallet through 7702, I think it will be an expansion of like what wallets can do and more on like Web 2 UX and Web 2 use cases being enabled in Web 3 wallets.
Thank you for that. Do you see any gaps right now in standards that you're seeing regarding 7702 and its implementation with 4337? Or this is also for everyone on the table. Like, do you see any gaps that are still missing that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, or is the EIP good to go, and we should see an immediate impact of it?
I think we will likely see an immediate impact on it, and because like I think the general framework is there, and each wallet will likely have a bit of tweak that will adhere to the standard, but like each wallet teams will come up with their own solution. And also there is an ERC that Trust Wallet co-authored with Safe, Ethereum, and a couple of other companies is regarding the interoperability, which I also wanted to bring it up in the space today, is that currently for EOA wallets, like it's a key pair at its core. So like, for example, if I was a user using Trust Wallet, I want to go to, let's say, MetaMask or another wallet that is in the space. And in that case, it's just a key pair at its core. So I can just like export my seed phrase, import it in a new wallet, and just like continually work on the new wallet software. However, when Smart Wallet comes out, there could potentially be a dependency because the storage of the EOE remains the same, but each wallet implementation may potentially delegate to different wallet softwares. So there could be like collision, although the probability is quite small. So in order to actually make wallet developers be aware of this potential interoperability issue that may impact users' freedom to migrate between wallets. The ERC-7702 is something that we wrote. And yeah, I think I hope to see more discussion on these parts because like users, even after 7702, will continue to migrate between multiple different wallet softwares whenever they want to. So yeah, I think it would be great to have like developers and potentially users awareness in those aspects.
There's another interoperability EIP, which is again to do with being able to import smart accounts into different softwares, which is related to building user ops. So like what this means is like when let's talk in practical examples. When you import a smart account created in Ambire, you try to import it into Rafi one day, but Rafi is not familiar with the way that Ambire interacts with the smart contract of the account. So this EAP helps all wallets be aware and have the same standards for that. And I think that 7702 is completely ready as it is. And basically what David said, it would have an impact alone by itself. But there's also like a million standards around it that you can argue about each one that it's required and that it improves things greatly. So I do think that there's a lot of adjacent EAPs that do need to get built. And there's also another one for signature verification, which is it's not dependent on 7702 particularly. It's 6942, and it's basically for verifying smart account signatures, even if the account is not deployed yet.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think what David and what you raised is like one of the biggest hurdles that I've seen is that you have so much fragmentation on different levels of like smart wallets being created left and right, and having the capability of using the same smart wallet and the assets of it, at least, is a big problem in this space right now. So I'm definitely hoping that this will be solved on that side too. Now I'm gonna give a little bit of space for Rafi. Like Rafi, like from a native account abstraction perspective, like is there any impact on your implementation with 7702?
There might be. So okay, so like I think we need to talk a bit more about the previous question to resolve these issues. I do agree that 7702 is solving the address diversification across other chains, which is also proposed by like with another EIP to implement chain name in the chain names being concatenated to the addresses. But with the current implementation of the apps and the airdrops and stuff, it is mostly being clashed. But I mean, when we think about 7702, besides providing the same addresses, I think it still has some similar problems with smart accounts. such as we do still need a key store rollup, because on different chains, if you want to use a smart account to basically like embed a smart contract account code to your EOA, and then you do assign a social recovery, let's say you do use Guardians, you will still need to synchronize these Guardians across other chains, which is not possible with the today's EIP-7702, I think. And besides that, if you do want to implement other authenticator keys besides private keys of EOAs, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit sick. So if you do want to implement other keys besides your private key, which you should, because I think the first proposal of 4337 was started because of the single point of failure in today's EOAs. So let's say you do want to implement a passkey. If you want to import your account on another wallet, you will still have the problem of domain lock-in, because passkeys do not support multiple domains as of today. And if you don't want to add another authenticator on one chain, then most likely you will need to add the same authenticator in other chains that you want to use one by one. So I do think 7702 solves some problems, and it might be ready as of today, but I would possibly defend it definitely needs a lot more side EIPs to solve lots of the problems of today's UX and also interoperability.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like for the multi-chain world, I mean, I don't think it's completely tailored for that. Like you mentioned, you will need.
Yeah, it is not only.
You will need a lot.
Yeah, it's not only 7702. Obviously, the 4337 has the same exact problems. If you're not using only EOA with your private key, which again does not solve the whole interoperability problem. Like you cannot use your EVM private key on another alternative layer one. But let's say we are working on solely on the Ethereum ecosystem with layer twos, then it might work besides Darknet now. So yeah, I do think like 7702 itself is bringing a huge step towards bringing EOAs to being smart accounts. But besides that, it still has a lot of problems in the interoperability and also the key management.
Got it. Thank you. Kieran, I'm gonna give some room for you to discuss what your vision is like for PillarX. Like how do you envision 7702 being implemented and like improving the UX and accessibility? Because you know, we have been going through the same motions, right? Like Ivo and like everybody else.
Of course. Well, you know, the guys have raised some like really good points, and we started already to roll into UX and UI, right? Which is going to be the ultimate sort of benefactor, at least from a technical point of view of all of this. One thing, just in terms of what might be missing. And apologies if someone already sort of alluded to this or mentioned this, but would be like a minimal set of like features that would be available for all smart contracts. Because the issue with installing smart contract code into an EOA address space is that there is this possibility that the way someone does something just might be a little bit different. For example, I don't know, I'm just batching or something. And, you know, again, you know, Rafi was just saying about like, we're going to have loads of side EIPs and ERCs around this. But just for at least a minimal set of understanding, so everyone can be aligned in whatever they're building, that we know that we're all going to talk the same language when it comes to installing a smart contract based wallet into the EOA address space. And there's not going to be compatibility issues when someone develops a Dapp. So, you know, that's in terms of like the user experience. For me, that's like the most important part of it. You know, we can talk all, we go into detail about the technical understanding and stuff like that, but what I found, and especially during the development of Pillar and PillarX, you know, over the years, is that if the user just doesn't understand what you're trying to do, like they just ditch your wallet and go. You know, they just leave your experience. So, you know, so that's my take on how you know how I think this sort of thing should work. Because if we don't have the users, what's the point? You know, so in all of this, I'm quite user focused, and I'm thinking about the end user as well. So my take on the last things was like minimal set of standards, at least for anyone developing smart contracts that can be installed into an EOA address space via 7702, and the world would be a better place.
So this is a more of a question for everybody, but we can start with Kieran or anyone else. Like, what do you guys see the main hurdles for developers that they might face when they wanted to implement 7702 or
can I just
infrastructure?
can I just
go ahead.
start with that? Right. I just want to say something. So like, I think it was last year. I attended a hackathon in London. Loads of blockchain developers. It was great to see. Obviously, I love being in that sort of space. But I was really horrified by this one particular thing that became obvious after a couple of hours, which was the developers that were developing their projects didn't understand account abstraction. Like everyone was just using their EOA wallets. So even though everyone was using various different like account abstraction SDKs, every single team apart from one team who knew that they had to use a different address for their smart contract based wallet was using their EOA wallet and was wondering why things didn't work. And this was so like, it was really painful for me to see. And I know that if they're having these problems, and they're the guys on the ground, right? These are the developers that are developing the dApps that drive the adoption into the space. If they're having problems over something that we consider like so simple, so obvious, you should know that you've got a different address space for your smart contract based wallet, then how this lack of understanding effectively trickles up the chain, and ultimately hits our users. And we've experienced that pain. I'm sure all of us have at some point, where people don't understand they have a different address. So 7702 from that perspective just solves such a really critical part of the understanding of your wallet. Your wallet has one address, and that's the one you're going to use. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, because it bothers me to this day that that's what I saw, and I saw everyone struggling with it. And when I went and helped them all and said, no, you need to use this different address, they were like, oh, and then their app started working, right? But they shouldn't have come across that in the first place. So again, thank you 7702, right? So
Yeah, no, that's fair. And for like Ivo, like, do you see any other issues that might come across when people are developing for the standard, especially developers, that hurdles they might face?
I was just gonna say more of the same, but to go into more details, maybe not as fundamental problems as not knowing that you have to use a different address, because obviously we're not talking about hackathons, we're talking about the best wallet teams in the space. But still, even some of the best wallet teams in the space, nobody on this call, but I've heard people like really misunderstanding 7702 and really misunderstanding what it does in the first place, how to enable it. The most painful thing for me is that people somehow think that it has to do everything. So they think of it as this silver bullet solution, which is finally going to fix account abstraction for everyone. And as already mentioned on this call, there is still a lot of challenges to solve. Like you still need a key store rollup if you wanna like make changes to the enabled keys on the fly across all networks. So I think one of the main issues is seeing it as a silver bullet and thinking that it solves everything.
And
Yeah.
do you see that, like, seeing that it doesn't solve everything, do you think there's still room for people deploying like not 7702 smart wallet, but just exactly as they've been doing right now with the modular accounts with 7579 or standalone smart contract? Do you think there's still going to be a use case for this after
Oh,
7702?
100%. Absolutely. Maybe not necessarily modular accounts, but just separate smart accounts with their own addresses, not created via 7702. So I think one of the biggest problems in the account abstraction space in general is that all of the EAPs, all of the standards, they fight for attention. They might not fight on technical grounds. They may not solve the same problem. Like for example, for 4337 and 7702, they don't solve the same problem at all, but they fight for attention. So the end result of that is that 7702 gets really popular, and people start thinking, okay, so all of the new accounts must be 7702, shouldn't they? And they forget that we still have this amazing tool for like creating multi-sigs or creating accounts which are like originally authenticated with a passkey or anything like that's out of the box of a smarter EOA. So everything that goes out of that box, you should just use normal smart accounts.
So you're saying that native passkey signatures are not possible to 7702?
They are possible, but they are possible as an add-on. So, like for example, if we want an account that is only authenticated with the passkey, then we should create a new smart account. If we want an account that's an EOA, so like for example on your Trezor, on your Ledger, but also can be authenticated with the passkey in parallel, then we can use 7702. So as long as you have this root key, you can use 7702. But 7702 is really powerful for harnessing accounts that already exist, in my opinion. Not so much for creating new accounts. Although I do see it as a great tool for creating new accounts for crypto natives. So crypto natives are already used to having like one really powerful private key. We're used to the UX of Trezor and the UX of Ledger. So we can afford to use this account type. So again, it's powerful for people who are used to this one very powerful root key type of pattern and type of security model.
And do you see then that brand new users that are coming into the space, will we be assigning them 7702 smart accounts, or will we be assigning them a standalone smart accounts to go forward? Because there is a gas implementation or effect as well, that it's a bit more gas optimized, right? So like for new accounts. Not that it matters that really much for layer twos if you're onboarding people to layer twos all the time. It's insignificant, I would say. But like where do you stand on this subject? And I'm really curious about David as well, because they are an EOA account. I know Ambire is from the get-go a smart wallet. So yeah.
So that's a really, really interesting question. So conventional wisdom in the space and all of the discussions around 7702 would simply say that new users have to jump to dedicated smart accounts, to like real smart accounts. Why? Because like you can get started with a multi-sig. For example, the user doesn't have a Trezor, they're not used to the root key pattern, they're not used to having like this one powerful key. So you create an account where one of the keys is on their mobile phone, one of the keys is on the laptop. Makes complete sense, right? But your point is really good. So, like for example, from the Ambire point of view, we will try to push them to 7702 accounts. Why? Because first of all, yeah, it's cheaper. Not specifically to create a smart account. To create a smart account is the same cost, but it's a bit cheaper. Like if you want to do an Ether transfer on mainnet, then it's much cheaper to not use a smart account. And with 7702, you don't have to undelegate. You can just send a regular transaction. By the way, earlier in the call, I said that sometimes you might need to undelegate. What I mean by that is for dApps that check whether your account is a smart account. For those that intentionally don't work with smart accounts, you may need to undelegate. But for every like normal thing, like for example, sending ETH and not wanting to go through the gas overhead of 4337, you can just sign a normal EOA transaction. You don't need to disable the smart account functionality. So yeah, there's many cases in which you can save gas, and also many reasons to use 7702 in terms of Dapp compatibility, right? You don't wanna put someone new to the space. You don't wanna put them through the hurdles of traditional smart accounts with the Dapp compatibility. Like you don't wanna be explaining to them that they cannot use OpenSea, for example. Although OpenSea mostly works with smart accounts now, but you get my point. You don't want to disappoint users. So even today, there is some reasoning in making newbies start with 7702, even though conventional wisdom says use a smart account.
You're talking about EIP-7701, right? About the signatures.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that the apps
yes.
doesn't as well.
Yes, but not necessarily. Like for example, there were many NFT mints which just check if you're calling them from a smart account. And if you're calling from, actually, they checked smart contract, but yeah, they're checking if you're calling them from a smart contract, and they think that this is some sort of bot protection, and they just revert the transaction. So smart accounts cannot mint those NFTs at all.
Yeah, I
It's
do
pretty
agree.
sad, really.
Yeah, so even though even though we are operating on zkSync, which does support like native account abstraction, its own accounts are basically acting like smart contract accounts. I would say 90% of the apps does not support EIP 1271 signatures. So it's a big hurdle. I do agree with you on that.
You cut up a little bit. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, so like even though zkSync is like a native account abstraction chain, 90% of the apps does not support EIP 1271 signatures. So most of the time you do need a private key to sign the messages with like easy recovery.
Yeah, that's too bad. I think in that regard, the Starknet guys have got it pretty right. I know that not many people, I think, in the Ethereum space actually use Darknet, but they have it quite genius in that even EOAs need to be smart accounts. So if you want to use an EOA, you still have to implement a contract which actually implements the EOA. So
Yeah,
that's genius because it forces everyone to use smart
I
accounts.
I do agree. I would say like probably zkSync solution is a bit more similar to 7702 because you do have your iAccount interface with smart contract codes, but you also have a private key. Even though Clave, it does not have a private key because we are using like factory and then 4337 alike contract codes. If you are using MetaMask on zkSync, you are possibly getting a similar experience to 7702. Besides the iAccount contract codes are not that enriched. But in order to understand the pros and cons, could we? I do have one question, to be honest, since the 7702 discussions are pretty fresh, and there was no possible way to undelegate the keys, the private key that is basically allowing users to embed a smart contract account on their UI. Is there a way to undelegate it now? If not, there is still the problem of a single point of failure. And the second one is, I think we could just say like 7702 as of today is basically smart contract account with a private key, so that if you are basically eligible of claiming an airdrop, let's like as a practical example, you will be able to use that smart account's private key, the UA's private key, to basically import to another chain and then use it as an UA to claim your funds, or maybe do some another transaction.
So the second question, that's absolutely correct. Although I would refrain from using the term private key because real smart accounts also have private keys. It may be a pass key, it may be multiple keys in the form of a multisig, but you still have private keys. What the term that I like to use is root key because it describes very much what's going on. Because this key is like more powerful than the entirety of the account. You can have any code in the implementation of this account, but the root key is always going to be able to override the code. This is like the key point of 7702. The smart account code that you're delegating to will always like not exactly fall victim, but it will always be less powerful than the private key that actually delegated it. So the root key. And then regarding the first question, yes, there is a way to undelegate now. 7702 went through like 2 or 3 major rounds of changes. And that also left a lot of people confused, by the way, going back to the point of developer education and etc. That also left a lot of people confused, but it's really stable now. It's like the final version. And yeah, there is a way to undelegate. And now delegations have to be confirmed on chain. So you can sign them with signed message, but in order for them to start working, they have to be like etched into the chain in a way. So stored into the chain versus the original proposal that Vitalik made, which was really, really simple. You sign a message, and then this message can be used for a delegation like forever by anyone. Which, by the way, sounds scary, but you're just authenticating some code. And then a 4337 relayer can use that message to use your delegation, basically.
Yeah. So just taking a step back just a little bit, because I really am keen to understand what David's perspective is on this, because as the biggest EOA wallet, do you see a use case for smart contract-based implementation, full aspect, or are you going to guide users over to 7702 exclusively because of the compatibility issues that we're seeing? 1271 was mentioned, not respecting the smart contract wallet address. It was also mentioned a bunch of times when you're interacting with apps. Like, what is your perspective, David, and especially from Trust Wallet perspective?
Yeah, currently at Trust Wallet, like diverse research is ongoing and we haven't settled anything yet. But from my personal point of view, currently like when users download the Trust Wallet app, they see two options. One is the secret phase, like the EOA, and the other one is the smart wallet, which users authenticate and perform key management through passkeys. So we give users the choice with a brief description, and then users make the choice, and then comes in to the rest, like whether they're going to create an EOA or a smart wallet. I think it's likely that from my personal point of view, that we will give users the choice depending on what they want. However, I think one of the aspects that 7702 has advantage over full smart account, like there are diverse trade-offs, but one aspects that 7702, besides the aspect like having same address, is that EOA itself is a cryptographic key pair that like you can drive a Bitcoin address, a Solana address, and like Cosmos, or let's say Move ecosystem based address together with 7702. So like right now, like 7702, itself is quite hot in the EVM ecosystem because it's EVM based, but a lot of times there are still a lot of users who uses Bitcoin, or let's say like Solana, and requires the wallet to be multi-chain. And the advantage here comes from that, like with a singular key or a singular wallet onboarding, like they get access to smart wallet for EVMs, but for other chains, they still get to have that multi-chain experience within the wallet. So I think that will be one. And the other aspect is that unlike smart wallet, EOA is already adopted by a lot of users. For example, like Trust Wallet, ourselves have 140 million users, and primarily most of them are EOAs. So it means like there is also the economics of scale, meaning that like, oh, like if we have this smart wallet functionality, turn that on and closely coordinate with the apps and try to escalate the UX of the EVM ecosystem altogether. It means that like we are already multiple steps ahead of because like there are already a lot of users using EOA, and the transition to smart wallet through 7702 could be very streamlined depending on how wallets implement or showcase the functionality. So I think there are some of those differences, and obviously like for multi-sig or like treasury management, definitely like a like full AA or like full smart account would definitely be much more superior than that. But I think it really depends on like the user persona, what the user wants, and like what the user like the user's use case when using that wallet.
No, that's a great point. Actually, I didn't even think about the multi-chain aspect of it and how you expand the universe regarding that. We know that there's like a tons of benefits, like using a smart contract wallet. Doesn't really matter which standard you use. You can have this recovery multi-sig system and transaction batching and stuff like that. Now, the real hurdle that I'm seeing, however, is the adoption of dApps. Like what do you see going forward? Like how will dApps react to 7702? Do you think there's going to be more of account abstraction dApps that are going to be leveraging it, or are they going to stick to their old flow, which is, approve, swap, and like multiple steps, and you're just basically having the same user experience despite having a smart contract-based wallet?
Yeah, I actually have one short thing to add regarding this part. I think one of the reasons why we haven't seen a lot of like PApps being compatible with AA is because the population and the user base of users using AA is relatively much smaller compared to EOA. So the apps like themselves also have their like project priorities, and it requires resources, a lot of refactoring on how the user journey and like how the DS will request for signatures and things like that. But I think after 7702, it is quite expected that a lot of EOA users will actually incorporate those smart wallet functionalities. So I think there will be a bigger incentive for DS to be compatible with AA, unlike currently, which is a relatively much more small portion compared to EOA. So yeah, that's like my view in general.
All right, thanks, David. Rafi, Kieran, feel free to give us your view. Like, what do you see the main struggle of dApps adopting this?
Well, I thought about this long and hard already, and I think in terms of a struggle, I mean, there is going to be a struggle. Like the ability for someone to install smart wallet, smart contract code into their address space to offer superpowers effectively to your wallet might that space might be contested with different dApps, right? So and I can sort of see this playing out already. You're going to land on some sort of like dApp. Who knows? It could be any dApp, right? But that dApp might want you to install their, smart contract based wallet implementation before you can continue. And then you might go to another dApp, and they might say, right, you've got this provider, you're going to need to uninstall that and install ours. There's going to be tools that appear that just allow you to scrub the delegation designation. I can't remember which way around it is. And I see that being a bit of an issue going forward. I do see a registry appearing where the available smart contracts are all available and can be read by dApps, but I do see a bit of a struggle in that respect going forward with who has the domination of that space, and other dApps having to sort of like bend over to whatever they're doing. I hope that's not the case, but like it's just one issue I can see at the moment.
I don't think this will happen. I think this is a
I hope
fundamental
not.
misunderstanding. This is fundamental misunderstanding of how 7702 works, because dApps are not supposed to propose delegations. First of all, for security reasons, and I think every wallet implementation I've ever spoken to, and David can confirm this, every wallet implementation I've spoken to does not will not allow dApps to propose delegations. Second of all, there's not that much benefit from the dApp end, because the dApp can implement the same things without 7702. So if I'm a dApp and I want to implement gas sponsorship and I have full control over my own smart contracts, I don't need to resort to 7702 or to any account abstraction. Account abstraction really is meant to bring those things to the wallet level. And dApps can already implement those things on their own with their own smart contracts. So an example of this is Uniswap X. Uniswap X, for example, has gas abstraction. You don't pay for gas in Uniswap X. You don't need a smart account to use it. You can use it with an EOA. So yeah, there's no that. First of all, there's no use case for resorting to 7702 for such things on the dApp end. And second of all, wallet implementations are not going to allow this anyway, for security reasons.
Fascinating. Thanks for clearing that up.
Is there going to be an issue with using different smart account factories and butlers and paymasters and interoperability issues? Because I think David mentioned at the beginning of the call that we
Absolutely.
might see, yeah, which
Yeah,
which is
that's a
going
big
to,
issue.
yeah. So we're
This
definitely going to see this issue coming forward, right?
it is
Absolutely.
already
So
an
the
issue.
problem here is, yeah, go ahead.
It's just already an issue in the account abstraction space as well. There's tens of account standards that are being issued and then being discussed currently. Like there's the modular accounts, and then 7579, the minimal account. Then there's the base 4337, the first EIP. There was like for the EOAs to be powered like smart accounts, there was 3074. So there are like tens of standards, and I think the biggest issue that from the kiosk question is so the apps is not going to probably propose themselves as adapters, but they will need a way to ask if the account connected right now does support a smart contract account, to either use like the signatures or basically use the paymaster that is being prepared with the signature. Well, it can be done by wallet as well, but at least the verification of the signatures. I think the accounts that are being embedded to EOAs should be standardized, and it is one of the biggest issues of our ecosystem today. Like even in the account abstraction, as I mentioned, there's like at least 3 to 4 very popular smart contract account implementations.
So you would be very, very pleased to know that this is a problem that's solved from the Dapp side. So there is EIP-5792 and another EIP starting with 7, which number I don't know, about transaction sponsorship. So those two EIPs allow the Dapp and the wallet to communicate on what the wallet can do. So basically, the wallet can say, I support transaction batching, and the Dapp can say, perfect. So in this case, please batch this approval with the action together. And then the sponsorship EAP allows Dapp to say, okay, I have my own paymaster, or I work with a specific paymaster. Can you please let the user know that this transaction is going to be sponsored and it's going to be free? So there is, from the Dapp side, this problem is very, very luckily already solved. The
That's super
unsolved
cool.
part, yeah, the unsolved part is if you wanna, like, you created a smart account with Ambire, you wanna import this into Rabi. This is the unsolved part, and it's unsolved because not only there are so many different standards, but there is no standard defining a unified interface between the accounts. Not even like modular accounts, not even 4337. 4337 is basically a transaction relaying EAP. It doesn't define what the exact code is that instructs a smart account to do something. So the only EAP I can think of in that regard is the user op builder EAP, which kind of mostly solves this issue. So it is a solvable issue, but I think honestly, we haven't put that much effort into it because it's not that pressing of an issue. People are just getting started with smart accounts, and there's no there's not that many people saying, "Oh, I want to import my smart account from Ambire to MetaMask." So simply because smart account adoption is not that advanced yet, that's why we haven't solved it. But luckily, the problem from the Dapp side is solved.
Perfect. Well, that sounds like a perfect topic for our next roundtable that we hopefully will host in a month's time. I'm going to wrap up this discussion. I'm going to give every speaker just the smallest amount of time. What excites you most about 7702? David, you go ahead first, and then we'll round this up.
Yeah, sure. For me, beyond like the technical parts, which is also very interesting as an engineer, is that what excites me most about 7702 is that a lot of things that wallets weren't able to do because of the nature of how it was like architectured and built is now possible through 7702. AA already did it, but not a lot of users, like at least as of now, have onboarded to AA. So I think with 7702, the whole use cases and the functionalities that Web3 and the EVM ecosystem can provide will grow exponentially through automation, through a better escalation of permissions and things like that. So yeah, I hope to see a lot of use cases, functionalities being built on top of smart wallets and 7702. So yeah, those are the parts that excites me most and that I look forward to most.
Nice. Thank you so much, David. And thank you for joining us. Rafi, what about yourself?
Yeah, so I think expediting the process of the adoption of account abstraction on the 7702 side is the most exciting stuff, because native account abstraction has obviously introduced a lot of new players, including us or like lots of the other wallets. But the current EOAs that have the OG crypto users have never adopted account abstraction besides Trust Vault, obviously. But like let's say MetaMask or Zerion, they did not introduce the smart contract accounts. I think 7702 might expedite that process, and the more builders that we have on the account abstraction area, the faster that we can move on.
Cool. Thank you. And thank you for joining us. Ivo, over to you. Oh, you're a listener again? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll invite you to speak. Kieran, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm just really looking forward to the improvements of the UI and UX to the users. What's always bothered me is how incredible and brilliant this space is, with the developers and the engineers and the talent, and the sort of inability, the sort of bit of a ceiling when it comes to this sort of technology reaching our users. So EIP 7702 goes a long way into helping that happen. So yeah, this is what I'm really excited about personally.
Unfortunately, I can't get Ivo up as a speaker anymore, but thanks for that, Kieran. What excites me the most, I'll take the spot, is obviously the UX, but I'm more excited about the fact that, we'll have more and more users having a secure phone and not being dependent so much on third-party providers that are doing the authentication side and doing the recovery aspect as well. And hopefully we'll get respected by centralized exchanges as well, because a lot of assets remain there, and they restrict depositing and withdrawing to smart contract-based wallets. So, but that's also going to be solved with 7702 because it's just an EOA address, right? Right. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm hoping that we can make this a monthly occurrence, and we can have other speakers involved in discussing the latest on 7702 or any kind of impact that we have on EIPs that might be impactful for smart contract-based wallets. So yeah, thanks for joining us today. My name is Aldin, and have a good day. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.